Hi guys, so I did the country of Ecuador, which is located on the west coast of South America with a population of 16,290,000 people. It is made up predominantly of Mestizo individuals, a 74% dominated Roman Catholic belief system, and Spanish dialect. Of these, 7% are of Ecuadorian indigenous descent. There is a strong social distance and difference between these indigenous people and the remaining population. The indigenous Ecuadorians face what's called hygienic racism, and the power difference between these two groups continues to define the social and political landscape of Ecuador. With a high power distance index ranking of 78, it is apparent that Ecuador believes inequalities amongst people are simply a fact of life. Ecuador has a high masculinity score of 63. Statistics show a substantial difference in unemployment rates, with 6.4% of males being unemployed compared to 10.6% in female unemployment. There is an underlying cultural attitude that women still hold the responsibility to be the child and home carers, although this is slowly changing. Ecuador is also a highly uncertainty avoidance nation, scoring a significantly high score of 67. They have extensive legislation, a sense of prevailing social conservatism, and therefore citizens feel concerned by unknown situations in the future, creating beliefs and mechanisms to avoid this ambiguity. In 2019, it was estimated that 2 to 3 million Ecuadorians now live overseas. This is due to the increase in achievement level among students graduating college, therefore being able to seek opportunities to work and study abroad. These numbers are due to Ecuador improving its educational conditions immensely in the last few decades, with literacy rates reducing from 16 to 4%. However, there is still a strong distinction between Ecuadorians who have succeeded through the shifting schooling system and those that still depend on family, friends, and title to survive. These groups tend to be either from socioeconomically wealthy families or indigenous natives who do not assimilate in modern working environments. For these people, age and experience decide your title, status, and achievement level in society. From 1990 to 2000, Ecuador's economy suffered from a banking crisis that led to multiple reforms, including the adoption of the US dollar as a legal tender. Today, Ecuador's currency is still American dollars. Governed by an elected representative, President Lenin Moreno, in 2017, he is both head of the state and head of the army, known as a multiple party system. Therefore, Ecuador can be classified as a representative democracy on the political system continuum. The political freedom score is 3 out of 7, with 7 being the least free. Ecuador's economy is a mixed market as a result of having a variety of private freedom, as well as centralized economic planning and government regulation. The economic freedom score places 169 out of the 179 countries ranked, with an annual GDP growth of 1.38%. Therefore, they are classified as a developing country. The Human Poverty Index was scored 22 out of 103, with a 9.7% unemployment rate and a 76.6 year life expectancy rate. With 41% of the population living beneath the poverty line, it is therefore suggested that Ecuador is on the low end of the developing country scale, but is still progressing. Ecuador's economy is substantially dependent on the petroleum resources, which account for around a third of the country's export earnings, which totaled $21.6 billion in 2018. It also accounts for more than half of the revenue for the central government. Consequently, this also makes Ecuador vulnerable to external shocks, including fluctuations in worldwide oil prices, agricultural exports, and commodity prices. Ecuador uses a civil law system which is strongly enforced due to the moderately high rates of crime as a result of Colombian drug trafficking organizations and insurgents sourcing illegal activity within Ecuador. In terms of the current risk in Ecuador, they have both a high political and economic risk. Their overall political score is 6, with a 7 being the highest. The economic risk is high due to the vulnerable oil price volatility. The indicators of this include the inflation rate of negative 0.22% and the government debt, which will be approximately 40% of the country's GDP by the end of this year. Due to this level of risk, it is clear that Ecuador is a country that the US should take caution with and analyze before making any extensive financial moves. However, there's certain US international industries that can handle this economic risk could benefit greatly from this reward. Due to the ease of restrictions and complications that exchange rates can have when doing business internationally, this is also a huge factor that can be eliminated for the states working with Ecuador. Considering it is classified as a developing country, the vast natural resources also offers the opportunity to strengthen it into an established developed nation for future trading as a result of the time and invested capital resources that the US could offer Ecuador. With US firms already having a steady trade with Ecuador, the decision for an upcoming US firm to internationalize to Ecuador would not be an extremely risky decision due to the safety net the PEG exchange rate creates. However, due to a high-risk economic environment and being a country that relies heavily upon foreign investment to build their economy, I believe it requires a certain type of high-powered and heavy profit-drawing business to succeed in this international market. Thanks for listening.